Hello everybody and welcome to the Whiskey Dictionary. Today I'm going to be talking to you about Laphroaig Quarter Cask, and I am so excited to finally be getting into Laphroaig, because this was a whiskey I bought for the very first live stream I did. It was actually a long time ago with the Scotch for Dummies, where there's still a story that goes around and people still bring it up to this day, of where somebody in the comments mentioned that I should mix this with Coke. Basically being an idiot. And I did it on the stream and actually it wasn't too bad. Anyway, so I wanted to get into Laphroaig because there's so many different Laphroaigs that I want to try, and this is currently the only one that I have. But I like to always, kind of do these elaborate reviews first before I go tackle the other expressions. So now I'm going to be super excited that I can open up Laphroaig and start covering more of them. So, Laphroaig was founded in 1815 by two farmers named Alexander and Donald Johnston. And the two of them worked together for a little while. Obviously, they founded it on Islay, and the location that they went to was called Broad Hollow by the Bay, or basically that's what Laphroaig stands for. And the two of them ran the distillery for a little while, and eventually Donald bought Alexander's share. Now Alexander moved to Australia and ended up dying at the ripe old age of like something in his 80s, but like in 1881. He was a fairly old man. But unfortunately Donald died in a way that sounds good on the surface, but probably was not very good. He died in an unfinished vat of whiskey and basically drowned. Unfortunately, he, died and passed it on to his son. Now his son ended up running the distillery fine, and one of the things that most whiskeys, most scotches did in the old days was sell themselves to blends. And blends would, blend their stuff, sell that. And Lagavulin was actually one of the people who bought Laphroaig. Now, the thing is, by selling your stuff into blends, you often don't have enough surplus to kind of push your own stuff and go out on your own as a single malt. And because of that, Laphroaig wanted to get away from Lagavulin. And there was a kind of a series of really interesting things. Now, all of this is just on Laphroaig's website. I didn't corroborate any of this myself, but just take it for what it's worth. Lagavulin apparently was not very happy about Laphroaig wanting to leave and stop selling Lagavulin their stuff, which you could understand that, right? So in a series of dick moves by Lagavulin, the first one was Lagavulin went and they blocked the stream going to Laphroaig with these gigantic boulders. Now this obviously halted production, and there was a court case, and they lost some of that time while the court decided that Lagavulin needs to go move those boulders. Once they moved the boulders, Lagavulin went and built a duplicate still house to what Laphroaig had, and even hired their head brewmaster. And they were not really able to reproduce exactly what Laphroaig had. But there was a series of other stuff that Lagavulin did, and if you're interested, go check out their website because there's a few more things on there. But basically they really didn't want Laphroaig to leave. But Laphroaig set out on their own. They made their own thing, and they even kind of tackled prohibition in their own way. They were able to sell to the United States during prohibition, not completely their own idea, but they promoted this as medicinal, which some places did, but they were able to make that work because they said, have you smelled this stuff? Like, it smells like seaweed, and it smells like salt, and it smells like smoke. There's no way this is whiskey. This is for medicinal purposes only. And, for whatever reason, the people bought it. I'm sure some palms were greased, but it doesn't matter. Lagavulin got into the country. And they proceeded to do very well for a long time. And ultimately, I think it was 2003, they finally introduced their second expression, which was Quarter Cask. Now, there may have been some limited editions in between there, but this was the second full expression. Now, those of you who have been to a liquor store recently know that there's countless Laphroaigs now. There's so many of them, and this was number 2. So let's go ahead and taste this one. Well, we'll go for the nose and all that stuff, but Quarter Cask as a whiskey is basically double-barreled. They age it in bourbon barrels, and ultimately before it's finished aging, they will put it into quarter casks, and that kind of helps to round out some of the peat. Now, after this, I forgot to mention, the bourbon barrels typically come from Maker's Mark. So for those of you who have had Maker's Mark, you can kind of see, that getting that kind of an influence onto this, that's going to be overwhelmed by peat. So it makes sense to try to put it into something else that will kind of give it a double dose of mellowing from the oak. So let's go ahead and give this a nose, because the nose on this is incredible. All right. Oh man, I kind of missed that. I haven't opened this bottle in a little while. I did keep it kind of under, lock and key over there behind me in the bar, and it stayed in the nice dark bar for a little while, but it's half gone. It's definitely aged a little bit, and the nose and the taste are going to be a little bit different, but because it is an Islay and it's a very peaty Islay, thankfully it maintains a lot of its characteristics. So let's go ahead and nose this again. So the first thing that you're going to get out of almost any Islay is smoke, but in this one, I wouldn't say that's first. I would say oak is right alongside it, and mix it with a little bit of saltiness, and you've basically got Laphroaig. But what makes this a little bit more special is that with like a Laphroaig 10 or something like that, where it's just a blast of smoke, this is well balanced. This is nice, it's oaky, it's smoky, it's salty. There's a little bit of graininess in there too, but in general, it's a very well-rounded whiskey. They did a good job putting in the quarter casks. So let's go ahead and taste this. Cheers. Making good use of the whiskey coin on this one because you want to catch those aromas. Lucky number 200, by the way. All right, so this is where the smoke really becomes prominent in the taste. It tastes like ash in a good way, kind of like cigar ash, right? So you've got a bit of cigar ash, you've got this just overwhelming smokiness, but then you've got salt and you've got wood, like oak, and you've got a little something extra that gives it that extra sweetness, and I'm pretty sure that's from the peat mellowing out with the quarter casks and just kind of introducing some of those oak qualities to it that you would typically get in, say a bourbon or something, or maybe possibly coming from the maker's mark. I'm not going to pretend I know, but it has a very characteristic thing to just this quarter cask that the Lagavulin 10 does not have. So let's talk overall. As far as this goes, I'm just going to go ahead and say this is a buy it. It's not a stock it, but it is something that you should try. It's only $50 too. For a Laphroaig to be $50, that is worth picking up. This is something that in my mind you should start with, even maybe before you go for the Lagavulin 10. In my mind, Lagavulin 10 is a shock factor. It's something that you give your friend to introduce them to peaty whiskeys, along with maybe an Ardbeg 10. One of those two is most people's entryway into Islay. So the quarter cask is what you should go to if you want to see what Laphroaig can do, other than just be peaty. So in my mind, this is a buy it, and I would give it that all day long. So thank you for joining me here on this last whiskey review of the year. My next video will be my whiskey of the year, so look forward to that. I'm sorry, no, the next video is going to be a craft distillery, but then following that will be the whiskey of the year. So thank you very much for joining me here on the Whiskey Dictionary, and have a great rest of your day. Cheers.